Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza Ann Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Biz Birthday Bash podcast. We have a guest here with us today who has actually made an appearance on the podcast before. We have Dianuh Aerin of Chasing Linen. More officially, Dianuh Aerin of Dianuh Aerin now, but we can talk about that a little bit later in the episode. Just you changing up your brand a little bit. Mm-hmm. Did I pronounce your... We've been friends for years. Did I pronounce your last name correct?
Yeah, actually, my last name is Gunderson, but Aerin is my middle name. So...
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I know, but no one knows that. Everyone calls me Mrs. Aerin, but that's my middle name.
And because I knew Patrick's last name, and so I don't know why I wouldn't have put two and two together. But like some people also keep their name.
So for sure.
You just never know.
I don't expect people to remember my full name.
Okay, perfect.
As long as they know my first name.
Yeah. Everyone knows Cami as Cami Monet, even though it's like technically Cami Miller. So, Dianuh, we're excited you're here. You didn't know that? I
didn't even know that. No, but that makes sense.
Yes. Isn't that funny? So Monet is her middle name, and it's Cami and Alex Miller, her and her husband. Yeah.
Yes, I think I knew her husband's last name was Miller, but I still thought it was Monet. So okay, now I know from the other side.
Yes, exactly. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who's like messed that up. And also after knowing you for years, I'm like, I feel like I should know how to pronounce that. But here we are, guys. Dianuh is with us today. She is a watercolor artist, illustrator, educator, content creator, a professional doodler, basically your everyday creative. She is also the founder of Chasing Linen, which is a design studio specializing in watercolor portraits and live art entertainment. Her clients in the past have included Google, Starbucks, Michaels, Nordstrom, LaCroix, and others. She loves empowering creatives to pursue their artistic ambitions through her YouTube channel, blog, and creative courses. So, Dianuh, there you go. That's the intro, the official introduction. So now people know a little bit more about you. And you guys, Dianuh and I met, oh my gosh, 5 years ago? Something like that?
Yeah, I think so. 5 or even 6. Well, no, how long have you been doing, like how long was Biz Birthday Bash, like before the podcast, like a thing?
Yeah, we started it in the fall of 2017, but Cami and I went full time with our businesses in the fall of 2016. So I actually feel like it might be since the fall of 2016, because that's when a bunch of like creative people, like we're all friends still.
Yes, I know. But Instagram was like awesome.
Yeah, when Instagram used to be cool. Right now, when we're recording this, all of this stuff, there's all this stuff on Instagram blowing up of like, make Instagram again. I don't even have the app on my phone. I only look at my business account from my browser. But I've peaked enough to know that people are like putting up quite a stink, as they should, because it's like Instagram just continues to...
That's a whole nother episode, right?
Yeah, I know, a whole nother episode that they just like continue to push video. So,
but Instagram was cool at one point, and we were friends at that time. Yes.
Yes, and friends still, even though Instagram is not cool anymore. But that's how I met so many of my friends today that I'm still really, really close with, which is awesome. People always ask me like, so how did you meet this person? Oh, I met them on Instagram. You know, we're online friends originally, turned to in-person friends.
Yeah. And we actually met in person.
We did.
So we're officially real life friends.
Officially real life friends, because you don't live that far from me anymore, which is actually a great segue to the very first question that I have for you, because now you're in Tennessee. You moved all the way across the country from California. So tell us how things are going now that you've made that transition and you've settled in a little more.
Yeah. So the move itself was crazy because we had a baby in March. I'm sorry, that was April of 2020, but COVID started March of 2020. So it's all like a blur. And even up till that point, we were not thinking about moving to like moving out of state. We had always kind of talked about it, like maybe one day we'll move somewhere outside of California, but it was never like a concrete thing. But when Everett was born, there was a lot of stuff going on politically, which I'm sure you guys could guess what those are. And basically our hometown didn't feel safe anymore. So we just started to look online and look at just like different real estate outside of California, and it blew our minds. Also, remember April is like tax season. So we were all in the nitty gritty with the taxes. So my husband and I are both business owners. So anyways, all of that combined, we were just like, let's get out of here. And that's why we moved to Tennessee, because we had some family members here. And so I never like knew what to expect moving here, but we've loved it. Honestly, like people always ask me, do you miss California? And I'm like, I miss my friends and I miss like certain foods, but I don't miss California as a whole, which really like would surprise me if you were to ask me this like before I left, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Diana, I think that's really true, because if I had asked you that question when we first became friends, like, do you think you'll ever live anywhere in the country or move anywhere outside of California? I feel like you definitely would have said no.
Yes, that's true.
No, I've just felt like you really were such a Cali girl at the time. And like still, obviously deep down, there's probably a part of you that always will be a California girl, since that's where you spent so much of your life.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like California, like some other places, I'm sure there was like a pre-COVID California that I love, and then a post-COVID California that I didn't love.
Yeah.
So that makes me a little sad, but I will always love California. Like this is not a California bashing question.
No,
by
of
any
course.
means.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends and family who still who live in California to this day. And I always will love to visit.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Like, I feel like once you kind of venture out, no matter what state you're in, like you'll find things that you love outside once you're outside of that bubble that you've been in, you know?
Completely agree, because I've done multiple cross-country moves at this point. Like grew up in Denver, moved to Seattle for school, then got married and moved all the way across the country to Georgia. And there was definitely that period of uncertainty at first, but now that we own a house here and we've been here almost 7 years, I really can't imagine living anywhere else at this time anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've truly grown to just love it so much. So obviously you are a mama, because Everett was born in April of 2020. So tell us what a day in the life looks like for you right now, balancing a little bit of business, a little bit of motherhood. I would love to know what that looks like.
Yeah, I think it just gets easier as they get older. That's at least how I feel. But pretty much, I've always known that I wanted to work, even as I had babies and became a mom and stuff like that. So I think in the beginning, it really did kind of made me realize, oh, wow, it's not as easy as it sounds to be a working mom. So I have so much respect for working moms out there. But basically, my seasons look a little different. Before, I would say I have my normal routine. Like this is what my Monday through Sunday looks like. But now it's like, well, there are times when I work and have a ton of babysitters and all lined up. And then there's times when I don't work at all. So right now I'm in that season where I'm really hardly working because it's summer or the time that we're recording this, it's summer.
Yes.
And my boy he doesn't have any daycare right now. I want to spend time with him, and we've had like family and friends stay with us. So I intentionally planned it that way. And I really that's the one thing that I love about having my own business so much that I don't think you can get in most other jobs, is that you can kind of create your own schedule, not just like in the day to day, but in like month to month and even year out. So yeah, basically summer, I kind of took off. Although I am saying that, and I also know that during the summer, I also did a bunch of projects. I traveled, I launched a new brand, I did my first live workshop. So I know it wasn't all play, but it was like play for me, my normal schedule. But in 2 weeks, Everett's going back to school. So from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday and Wednesday, he goes to our PDO program, which is Parents Day Out at our church. And then during nap times, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, his nap's like just 2 hours, 1 to 3, 3:30, 4 at most. I'll just get some work in, and I really try not to work at night times. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. And I definitely batch everything. Definitely. That's like the biggest thing.
So is that a change then from like what business looked like pre-Everett? You didn't batch as much and now it's kind of like you have to do that? Or is that something that you had done before, but now you do it more intensely?
Well, if I'm being honest, I think before I had Everett, I just said yes to everything. I wanted to do everything. And like, I know it was kind of maybe crazy. People were like, oh my gosh, you're crazy for doing everything. But I wanted to do that. And I could do that at the time. And now I actually have to turn down things, even though I want to do them. So I think because of that, I have to batch, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I've also, I mean, I'm sure we'll end up talking about this, but like I mentioned, started a new brand. So I still own Chasing Linen, but Chasing Linen was my baby. Like now I kind of handed it off to my team in California, which is why I have to batch ahead of time for them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to get all of those things done. I feel like we could also do a whole nother episode about that aspect of like running a remote team. So if we ever want to chat about that, we could have you back for that now that you very much stepped outside that. And I'll give people some context too, just in terms of like the history of your business, because we jumped into this conversation as friends. And so I know the history of everything.
Yeah.
But it was like, know, for years you did wedding invitations and then you introduced this live art section of your business, which just completely took off. I feel like it completely exploded in the best way. So you're hiring all these people on to be artists, to do these events like, during your time in California. And then you moved to Tennessee. I feel like you had a little bit of that internal dialogue back and forth of like, what's the right thing going forward? How do I manage this? Do I transition? Do I keep it? Lots of conversations around that. And now there's been more of a push with your new brand towards partnering with more brands, a little more lifestyle content, art licensing based. So tell our audience, that's like the very brief, like 1 minute timeline.
You did great. Yeah. I was like, oh, she's narrating my life right now. It's amazing. Such a good listener.
I could have let you like do that, I'm sure. But it was like, because I also wanted to just like get to the question and the meat of the conversation. Like,
no, you did great.
Thank you. When did you first start thinking that you might want to partner with brands more and transitioning towards that aspect of your business, which is what the new brand portion is now? Like, take me through the thought process of that.
Yeah. You mean in the sense of like licensing or just like general partnerships? Do you mean?
Yeah. I feel like during our time of the mastermind, you had a kind of this feeling of, I think I want to go towards the lifestyle feel a little more like on my Instagram, be a little more personal. And with that came some awesome like art brand partnerships, actually. Like in my mind, those kind of went hand in hand when you started thinking about that, but like maybe to you it didn't.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I got it. Yeah. So when I first started Chasing Linen's Instagram, actually even before Instagram, Chasing Linen was a blog first. And that's where I would like basically post anonymously, like my artwork, my like life updates. And then eventually I started like putting my name out there. Like this is me behind this blog. And I would share like my trip to Alaska because that's how Chasing Linen started when I was fundraising for my trip. So there was always kind of that like sharing of what's going on in my life aspect of it, but I never was doing it intentionally. I think I just did it. But again, like I wasn't like planning to do lifestyle content, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But over time, obviously, like it really became more integrated when I met my husband or, then boyfriend at the time. Like we started dating and then I made our wedding invitation. So I would like, that's kind of personal. And I would update about like, I would kind of integrate like my services and my business along with like what's going on in my current stage of life, if that makes sense. And I think, again, as I was doing that, I would get emails or different like people reaching out wanting to partner with me or send me something. And I was like, oh, should I like try doing this seriously? And I think that's when I started to maybe think about it and maybe think like, maybe I should try. I don't know. But I think it really came because of the opportunities that were given to me, if that makes sense. Because I was already kind of creating that content. It wasn't the opposite where, I don't know, like I was creating content for the sake of being hired. It was kind of the opposite way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Where it felt a little more like natural, I guess.
Yeah. And sometimes I like try to like not post lifestyle content because I always wonder, like, am I confusing people? Am I posting like way too many different things? And I've actually tried, there was a time where I tried to like not post at all my personal stuff. And then I just started getting bored. I was like, you know what? Like Instagram is supposed to be fun for me. Like it's supposed to be fun. And you know what? Yeah, maybe some people get confused, but whatever, those people are not for me anyway then, you know, and I like following different people for different things too. So I think as long as it's helpful and if it's something that like, as long as it's something that I want to share, but not like impose on other people's information, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then I think and then I also think about the potential impact. Obviously, like you kind of have to think about what you want to share and how you want to share it before you share, because lifestyle is way more sensitive than art. So there's definitely that layer. But I think once I started to get some opportunities, especially ones where I can kind of create my own thing, that's where I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Like I get to work with Starbucks and, you know, I did one with Imperfect Foods and just like, you know, brands that are not within the art niche that were really exciting to me. So I think that's when I was like, let's do it.
Yeah, I know. It's been really cool. This is actually it was a pretty crazy coincidence. Do you remember when I like texted you about the Michael's email? I was like freaking out.
Wait, which Michael's email?
The one where, because you had gotten featured because you had the online workshop coming up with them.
Yes.
So you had scheduled this with them.
Day. Yes.
Yeah. Something along those lines. And the funny thing is like, Michael's, if you ever sign up for their email list, they send you like 100 emails a week. It's so overwhelming. But for some crazy reason, it was a wild coincidence. I opened one Michael's email like this entire month. And there, right on it, was Dianuh's face. And I was like, what? I freaked out. I was so excited. I like forwarded it to you. I screenshotted it. And here you hadn't even like known they were sending it out that day.
I didn't know.
You're like, yeah, they didn't tell me they were doing that. And I was like, Dan, you don't understand. I never opened the Michael's emails because there's so many of them. And the one I opened had your face in it for the event.
I know. It blew my mind. It was like, because it was for International Women's Day. And I was like, that's literally the coolest thing that they could have used my face for. It wasn't even actually or maybe it was the workshop promo. I'm not sure, but I think they posted at 2 separate times because I knew about the workshop, obviously, because I'm teaching it, but I did not know about the International Women's Day post. So thank you for letting me know.
Okay. Yeah. I can't remember like which one it was either, but tell our audience then, and you've said, you know, you've been given like certain opportunities when brands reach out. Is it truly something where you feel like a couple of these have come to you because they've reached out and you weren't even sure they were on their radar? Has there been anything where you have like intentionally reached out to someone else? How are these deals coming to you? Just to try to give people some context, you know, if they're interested in pursuing something like this.
Oh yeah, 100%. This is actually a great time that you asked me this because I'm literally I emailed like one of my favorite authors. I just love her so much. And then I found out she's coming to Nashville in a few months to do like her book launch party. So I DM'd her and then I DM'd her business account. And then they were like, oh, you can email us. So I emailed them and I said, hey, I'll go. I'll do like live painting for free. This is all the things that I've done. I send them a bunch of examples, send them my website. You know, this is complimentary to your team. I just want to do this for you because I love you. Well, I didn't say that, but, you know, basically. So yeah. And she was like, oh, let me talk to, like, this was an assistant. She's like, let me talk to her. I won't say her name.
Yeah.
I'll talk to her and let you know. So I'm on the other line, like fiddling my thumbs, like just so excited for this unpaid opportunity for me to be near like one of my heroes, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. And then also I actually reached out to a kitchen brand also asking for a collaboration. I said, hey, if you send me, you know, your line of items, I'll create content like this for you. This was paid. These are the 2 paid content that I got paid to create, but I'll do it for free in exchange for a product because I really want to use this product. They turned me down, unfortunately. So I just ended up buying it myself.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
There's definitely times that I've reached out for sure and was like, as like literally right now, twiddling my thumbs, waiting for this email to come back, hoping that they'll say yes. So yeah, I think there's definitely both aspects of creating a portfolio and hoping that you'll attract someone, but also going out there and making it happen for yourself. And actually a second part is a lot of these opportunities that I got were through previous relationships or networking. I think like, I can't remember the exact phrase, but it was like, if you want, you know, a job, you don't just work towards it, like with your degrees and what all of those things, like you make relationships and then you get those jobs that you want. Right. And I feel like that's kind of also another way that I've done it. Again, not like intentionally. I have no idea who has contacts to whom, but that's how I got the Ellen Be Kind box through a relationship that I made from another event that I did. So yeah, it's kind of both.
Yeah, because I was going to say the live art events especially gave you this very unique position to be put in front of a lot of highly influential people.
Yeah.
So, you know, you would do, I remember, I think it was like you had a picture with like Jennifer Gardner once. Am I saying that actress's name correctly? There's been definitely.
Yeah. We did like Jessica Alba.
Yeah. That you have, you know, like run into in your time doing live arts specifically. And Cammie and I talked about this a little bit actually when it came to doing like an art booth or a live or a market event. We talked about like leveraging your business in other ways while you're there selling something else. And I feel like live art kind of has done that for you a little bit. Like you said, unintentionally, you didn't realize that's what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for sure, like that's kind of the beauty of something like Instagram. I know we've been kind of like ragging on it, but Instagram allows people to see your process, not just the finished product. And when people see the process of you creating that thing from start to finish, it now becomes infinitely more valuable because people know how much work goes behind the process, right? Especially if it looks like quote unquote effortless, you know, to make it look effortless, that person has worked years and practiced like so many times, you know, and I like so appreciate that whenever I see my friends, my creative friends, Instagram, just like, I know that it looks like you did this in like 2 minutes, which you probably did. It probably took you like 200,000 hours to get here or whatever, you know?
Yeah, right.
And I think live art kind of does the same thing, except in person, like people can see the process. And therefore, this piece of artwork that's done is now infinitely more valuable than if they were just seeing it without the process.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so true. Like as much as we do rag on social media, it's not really about the likes. It's not about the engagement
100%.
and the comments. It's about kind of curating your own portfolio, right? So that when you do run into someone in person or you make a connection and they start following you, specifically you, they can put like an art to a face and remember you in that way. It's not about growing your following. You know, I put so much effort into that in the early years and I really I regret it. I really do regret how much time I wasted just trying to like grow my following when it's so much more powerful than that. If you're looking at it through the lens of like a tool, intentionally using it as a tool for your business.
Yeah, it's not a popularity contest. And I think so many people get caught up in that, but it's really about showing the thing that you're, you know, selling and like the process of that. So yeah, I think if you look at it in that way, it definitely helps. But of course, we're all human. We always, you know, come back to like, dang it, why isn't Instagram showing this content? So I get that too. I totally get it.
Very much so. I mean, they've trained us to think that way, basically,
Yes.
like our minds have
Exactly.
very much been pushed to think like that. Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys, seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best. You guys, everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable and is full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group.
But back to the partnership brands a little bit. So I remember very clearly your partnership with Starbucks, because the thing you painted for them, I don't know, just everything about the photos and the art and the way you laid it out was just beautiful. I just wanted to like stare at those all day. And I wanted the coffee like immediately. It worked so well as an advertisement. I was like, I need that immediately. I don't even like Starbucks coffee. So do you remember the details of how that came about?
Yes. So I had 2 partnerships with them. That the one you're referring to is the second one, but the first one was, so again, this actually totally goes into what you were saying about like, were you intentionally trying to pursue lifestyle? So during this time, before I got the call, got the email, I was moving from California to Tennessee and just talking about that. Like, I'm moving with my 2-month-old baby, like cross country during COVID, all that stuff. I feel like literally everyone was doing it, but, I was just like, this is a big deal for me. So I was just talking about it a lot. And their campaign, the Starbucks' campaign, which I didn't know at the time, was about basically like people taking holiday portrait photos at home because it's COVID, everything's shut down. So anyways, they emailed me. I got an email once we moved here and I thought it was a joke. So I didn't respond. Not a joke, but I thought it was like a spam. There's so many spam emails out there. And I was like, why would Starbucks want to work with me? So I just didn't respond at all. So they followed up with me, which I'm like so embarrassed. But they followed up with me and they're like, hey, we really want to work with you. Can we get on a call? And I was like, oh my gosh, is this Starbucks like for real?
Right.
And
for
so,
realsies.
Yeah. And then they sent me a phone number that was like not like normal looking, it ended up being like one of those like, I don't know what they're like, those phone conference phone numbers, but like when I first saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a spam. Are they going to try to take money from me or something? But anyways, it ended up being real, legit. I know this is the real behind the scenes. And basically when I got on the call with them, I thought they were kind of like interviewing me to see if I might be able to do this, but basically when they were talking to me, I had already gotten the job. I just didn't know. They were like waiting on me. And I was like, oh, okay. And
wow.
so I
Okay.
didn't,
Yeah.
yeah, it was crazy. So I think they were looking for specific stories that they wanted to share.
Mm-hmm.
And that campaign ran. I asked them because I think there was two posts that I had to do. So one was like of us, and then the second one I asked them like, "Hey, can I put my painting in there with Starbucks?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "It'll be holiday themed, whatever." So they approved. And then they actually ended up loving that idea. So the second time they came in, they're like, "Oh, let's make it like a painting themed, like on brand with our spring coffee launch." So I ended up painting like a painting for them for that launch specifically.
Okay, nice. Well, the thing I love about that story, especially, is you taking initiative with the, hey, I'm going to put my art in with this segment, because that wasn't what they asked for. That was just you taking initiative, which led to them coming back again the second time, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they kept wanting to talk about the idea of our family moving across the country, but I wanted to talk about how I'm an artist and I offer this service. So I was like, why don't we do both? Well, because
Yeah,
like
we can.
both are true. They're both authentic to me. So why not?
Yes. I love that you kind of, that's what people forget, is there can always be a discussion, right? Like when
Mm-hmm.
people reach out to you, you never have to be like yes or no. You can say what if blah blah blah. You
Yeah.
can pitch something else and have a conversation. I think we get really nervous, especially when we're new to a field. We get like
Mm-hmm.
nervous about doing that. We think we just have to take kind of whatever comes our way, but there can be a lot of push and pull, if you will, that can
Yeah.
happen when you
And that's
open
what
up that
makes you
discussion.
unique. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And I've definitely been turned down for these as well. Like I had someone who reached out and wanted to do like a sponsored post, like more lifestyle-y on one of their like products. And I was like, could I put
Mhm.
my art on your product and post that instead? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, then no. Like,
Okay, bye.
so yeah. So like, you can pitch and get a no, but then like, hello, Starbucks said yes. So, you never know what you'll get until you put it out there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's great to mention too, that there are no's, and that's just part of being in this field. It's just part of life. If you
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
ask, you won't. If you don't ask, you won't ever get a yes. So there's no point in being afraid of the no. One of my
Totally.
friends from also neighbor growing up, but he lives in California now. He always said, "A quiet mouth doesn't get fed." It applies to like birds. Apparently, that's the metaphor,
Mm-hmm.
but it
Yeah.
still applies to like us in the grand scheme of life. Is that you've
Yeah.
got to be reaching out and be making those connections.
Yeah.
So, when did you start thinking that you might want to have a new website and more separation between your two business brands once you were getting more of these partnerships, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I had separated it in 2020 in terms of like my Instagram. I started a second Instagram separate for Chasing Linen and my own. And I had always thought like maybe I'll have my own separate website, but I don't really know. There was really no need for it. I had also spent a bunch of money to like launch Chasing Linen's new website. So it's like, I don't know if I want to, start a new website. So anyways, it was kind of always in the back of my mind. And then when a jewelry brand reached out to me to curated a curator's collection line together, and they had come to me with like a PDF with like a pitch deck, and it said Chasing Linen X, the jewelry brand. And I was like, that doesn't look right. I think it
Oh
should
my
be Dianuh
gosh, yeah.
Aerin X, your brand. So that's when I was like, oh, they're like, okay, well, then you need to send us a logo. And then I was like, oh, I don't have a logo. So I like made a logo, and then I like really quickly sketched out like my my website design template. It hadn't existed at the time. And so I just was like, okay, well, this is my logo, and it'll for now link to my Instagram because I have no website. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of when it started. And then when the second deal or the second kind of licensing-esque opportunity came with Be Kind by Ellen DeGeneres, that's when I was like, you know what? I need a website, and it has to be at the same time when they launch so I can kind of ride this momentum. And if I don't set a deadline, I know I'll never do it. So that's kind of when I decided to like officially go for it. Like this is separate from Chasing Linen because I'm not doing watercolor portraits. It's not me and my team. It's just me. I'm putting in like my ideas back and forth. So I just felt like it felt weird to have it under one umbrella. And I also didn't want people like our clients at Chasing Linen to get confused and be like, oh, so you offer necklaces now? You offer this now? And I'm like, no, we do not offer any of those things.
Correct.
So I wanted it to be two separate brands from that point officially.
Yeah. And it looks so beautiful. I was like, you had reached out to get feedback from a few people, and I was like so honored that you asked.
Oh
and
my gosh.
I was like, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say you were the top of my list of like, I need to get Elizabeth's feedback because she's so specific. She's so professional. Like you have like, well, the audience doesn't know, but me and you, we always talk about how we have such different strengths, you know, even though we're both creatives and we're both business owners. I feel like you have the opposite strengths that I do. So I feel like I need to get her input.
It was like so much fun getting that little like behind the curtain peek before everything launched and was out there. And I do get in my own head about that though, because I'm always like, is this too much? But I guess you got exactly what you asked for, because I definitely emailed back with like bullet points on like, here's my thoughts on certain things. Obviously, massive disclaimer, like you do not need to take any of this advice. Because I'm always worried, because sometimes when people ask, this is true, like people will ask for feedback, and what they don't really mean that they want feedback, right? They mean that they want to be told that it looks good and it's beautiful. So I second guess myself a lot, but with you, I knew, I was like, okay, Diana's asking for actual feedback, but I will of course preface it with like, you do not have to take any of this advice. But
if you came back and told me it's perfect, then I'd be like, are we friends?
Are you okay? Where is the Elizabeth that I know? What happened?
Yes. Where's my Enneagram 1?
Yeah, exactly. That person, the list maker in your life. So so all that to say, it looks absolutely gorgeous now. I thought it was just so smart to finally create that division. So since you have launched that, how do you feel that things have gone now that things are kind of in these two different buckets?
Yeah. So that is a great question. Right now, it's so like baby fresh, you know, like I have an elementary school child and a newborn baby. That's basically what I have between my two businesses. One's like 7 years old, one's 2 months old. So it's just so fresh. And I think I wanted it to be like that. Like I mentioned with my summer, I really wanted like blank space. And I even told myself that going into creating this website, I was like, you know what? In a few months, everything can change. Like I want it to be like that. I want it to be like Play-Doh right now, just like super moldable. I don't want it to be like, I just don't want it. I wanted it to take shape organically, if that makes sense. So, and I wanted to do that for summer specifically. And then in the fall, my goal is to kind of create my pitch deck and actually go for brands that I really want to license with and, you know, build my portfolio. So I have plans. It's not like it's like, oh, only open space, loosey goosey. Like it was definitely like intentional space, but I wanted that space so I can actually get inspired. I feel like we as creatives need that space, that breathing space. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I have nothing exciting to tell you. Like, I'm not like, oh, I have this project coming up. Like, I'm not like, that's not the stage that my new business is at right now. And I actually love it especially because I had my own, I still have my own business. I know what it feels like to run a business. And now I'm not like giving myself as much pressure because I'm like, well, this is a phase. And I remember feeling this phase with Chasing Linen as well. So in that sense, it's kind of great. But another part of me is like itching to like get going too. I'm like, okay, well, when's the next thing? Like, so it really is kind of a balance between the two. But right now it's definitely in the baby phases for sure.
That's so great. And thank you so much for such an honest and sweet and transparent answer, because I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that, right? Of like just something baby fresh. I'm just
Yeah.
still kind of figuring it out, and watch. It's all going to be like God's timing. I bet as soon as like Ev goes back to school and you have a little more time,
Hmm.
there's just going to be a bunch of things
Yeah.
probably that come up, right? That fill your time and your workspace a little more.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's so beautiful and so fun to watch your friends' businesses evolve and change over the years. Especially because it's, things are so different since whatever year it was that we did the mastermind together. I think it was 28.
Yes. Yeah, I think I
Um,
was still doing wedding invitations at that time.
yeah, dude, we both were. That was what was so
Yeah.
crazy is like we were
Yeah.
the two wedding stationers in that mastermind of 4 people.
Hmm.
And neither of us are doing that anymore, have
Hmm.
transitioned in completely
Thank
different ways.
yeah. Shout out to all the wedding stationers out there. Just like I appreciate you so
Yeah,
much. So much.
for real. We know what those people are going through so
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Okay, so the deal with Ellen then, the box that you did with her, that you partnered with her, what was the timeline on that? So when was the idea pitched to you versus the release date? Because it would be really great for people to understand that behind the scenes element of working with a
Hmm.
brand.
Yes. You know what? I'm going to open my text thread with my friend right now and see when she emailed me. But
Oh,
basically,
awesome.
yeah, because I'm sure I can find it like literally in a second. So yeah, when she emailed me, it was April or May, I want to say. Hold on. Sorry. I should be here really soon. Okay. Actually, we've been texting a lot. So it's way back because obviously once the project started, we were just like texting nonstop. But
Yeah.
basically, she reached out to me, I want to say April or May. And it was like, hey, are you even interested in this? And I was like, yes, I'm interested in this. Like, I didn't even know this was one of your clients because she's a freelancer. And so I was like, just email me. And so she emailed me. And in the email, the very first email that she sent me said, due by end of week. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, yes. So the email was sent like, I want to say Monday or Tuesday. It should due by Friday, but if you need, maybe Sunday. So I
Wow.
was like, let's do it. And this is
Yeah.
also the same time that I was working on my live workshop. Actually, it was right after my live workshop was done. So I had just finished a big project, which is actually great because every time I finish a big project, I leave like white space for the next week or two, like to do like nothing because I know I need to recharge. So I didn't have anything
Mhm.
in my calendar at the week. So I was like, let's do it. Why not? And I actually
Right.
love quick turnaround projects, especially if it's something that I'm excited about. The quicker, the better.
Mhm.
So I did it in a week. Um, and they approved it really quickly. There was some ideas that kind of got tossed back and forth that didn't make the cut. So I guess I can share that if you want me to. I know like some people don't know like they only see the final product.
Yeah, no, for sure. Anything that you want to share would be awesome.
Yeah. So one of the things that they had originally pitched to me was a watercolor portrait of Ellen, since I specialize in watercolor portraits. And I was super
Mhm.
excited about that. I made it for them. I had it in like, they wanted it in the front. And I was like, no, let's not do it in the front. That's just too much. So I said, why don't we have it on the inside where she's like kind of like popping out and saying like, hi, like, thanks for buying my box, whatever. And they needed, like I mentioned, they had a very tight turnaround because they needed to send the files to print immediately for the packaging company to like get it all out to print so that it could make it in time. Oh, also, sorry. I also should mention the reason why it was such a quick turnaround was because Ellen was filming her last season. It's her, season 19 was her last season ever to be filmed. And she said,
Yeah.
if you want your box to be in the last episode or like one of the last episodes of the season, then you have to finish it by Friday or Sunday. And I was like, done. I will be there.
Yeah.
So that's also why we were like rushing it to make it to the production date of the show airing date, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So all that said, and even that box that was featured on Ellen, the air date was not the final box that went on to production because we had some tweaks in between, but we had to get the sample out there. So anyways, because of that, like we went back and forth. It was super quick turnaround. They had to have a really higher up person approve of the Ellen portrait because it's, you know, a representation of a very famous person.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like we didn't make that deadline for the approval. Like they never, from what I know, they did not tell me they disapproved it, but we didn't get the approval in time for the box to be printed to get on the air date.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a mouthful. So anyway, so there's like stuff like crazy. That. Yeah. I didn't know any of this until I was like in it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is crazy. But that makes sense. Like that makes sense why people don't, you know, like there's more, you know, you want to be more careful with like painting famous people because of stuff like this, you know? But
right.
Anyway, that didn't make the cut, but that was totally fine with me. And I made certain things clear. I feel like you've maybe talked about this in your licensing episode, but I made certain things clear. Like, this is my design. I own the design. I can do whatever I want with the design. I can make a pattern out of it. I can reuse it. I can sell it. You know, I just wanted them to know that. So I made them sign that. Even though it was such a quick turnaround, I just wanted them to know, like, hey, I'm an artist and I'm so excited to work with you, but I just need to know I own this image. So
nice.
They approved of that. And yeah, that's kind of how it all happened, like so quickly. And then by the time, there were some tweaks that had to be made, not with the design, but with the dimensions, because they ended up changing the box dimension on me. So I had to like resize everything. I mean, you know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do that. But otherwise, it was really, really simple.
Wow. Yeah, that is, for some reason in my mind, I was thinking, oh, you know, they probably reached out like 6 months in advance. It's either they reach out so far in advance, you're like, this isn't happening for forever, or they do what they did to you, which is like, we need it in a week. Like, anytime I got asked to do some sort of calligraphy for a movie set, which actually has happened quite a few times because I'm in Atlanta and there's a lot of stuff filmed here, it's always like, we need it tomorrow. Like, I kid you not. They're like, we need 100 of this and this tomorrow. And I'm like, what are you? I can't do that.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting because production stuff is always last minute from my experience. Like production as in like, you know, like the movie set, like that's a production or producing this box, whatever. But like social media calendar and marketing and that end is way before. So I don't even know why that's the case. But anyways, I just thought it was interesting. I feel like with companies, it's usually we wanted it yesterday.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same. It is very confusing given that everything that we have now that should make scheduling and planning, teamwork, etc., much easier and more efficient to plan in the future. I guess maybe it's because they're already so behind. There's just no way at this point to like catch up. And exactly, for them to like get into that mindset, that preparation mindset.
Yeah. And they can.
Yeah, I know they can get away with it. I was just thinking that too, because people, I don't know, when they have the chance to maybe have something featured, like I know I felt a lot of pressure of, oh, this could potentially be on this show with these actresses and actors. I would really love to do it, but then I had to also be like, but I can't compromise like my sanity if this doesn't work with my timeline. But they get away with it because people will, depending on the situation, sometimes compromise their sanity and like bend over backwards.
Yes, totally. And I think it depends on like where you're at.
Yeah, exactly.
I was stoked. It worked out perfectly.
And it was a connection from like a friend. It was such a good connection to make that happen fast. It wasn't like a totally like cold connection, if you will.
Yeah. I had only met her once at another live art event, but she was phenomenal at that event. And I was just like so excited to work with her. So, and I even told her that actually before she reached out to me, I actually reached out to her and said like, hey, just wanted to let you know, I've saved your number. Like you can, I'd love to work with you. It was so much fun. So I did like kind of drop that in her bucket. And then a few months later, she contacted me. So that's another like tip. Just like put yourself out there. If you get a new contact, follow up with them. Just let them know like, hey, I'm here for you. This is what I do. This is like, and I also told her like, I don't only do live art because she met me at a live art event. You know, I said, I also do licensing. also do custom design. I'm also available for freelance. So I just told her all of these things, and she ended up hiring me for, the thing that was different from what she knew me for.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah.
All of those things, I feel like you followed like all of the steps to kind of lead to this moment, because people do forget about that follow-up element of how important it is, for the puzzle piece to really click in place and for them to remember you. You have to have some sort of follow-up connection after an event is over. Otherwise, it's just in one ear and out the other for a lot of people.
Yeah. Like, I could have potentially not had this opportunity to be on Ellen's last season if I hadn't sent her the follow-up text.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Just saying. You did it.
And anyone else can do it. Like, it's so easy, but
exactly.
Yeah, it was a dream project for sure.
Along the theme of anyone else can do it, for people looking to get into the space, whether it's brand partnerships and art licensing, what tips and recommendations do you have for them?
Yeah. So I think with this specific, both art licensing, brand partnerships, everything that we're talking about is all under the umbrella of like a creative space, which means a creative space is like both beautiful and daunting, because creatives can imagine things like that they want to make in their minds, but a lot of people cannot see what you're envisioning in your mind. You know what I mean? And so I feel like, how would a brand know how to partner with you, even if you have great ideas, if they don't know what that looks like? So I feel like for sure, building a portfolio, same thing with art licensing, building a portfolio is really important. And I would build a portfolio based around what you want to create. Like, I think I can't remember where I heard this, but it was like back in, again, 2016 calligraphy days when it was really popping. And someone wrote like, I hate doing calligraphy on black envelopes with white ink. But then on their Instagram, they had a bunch of those. And it's like, why are you creating a portfolio of things that you don't want to do? Do you remember that example? You know what I'm talking about?
I feel like I do, because I feel like I do remember that. And it was so funny because that was all that they were showing, and what you show sells. So sorry to say it, but some projects just got to be buried, and they never see the light of day. Like, if you don't want that work, don't put it on your public profile.
For sure. Yeah. So I think it's the same kind of idea with that. And the brand partnerships is really creative, because you can literally make it like totally unique to what your strengths are. Like, if you're funny, use that angle. If you're not funny, do something else. If you like to dance, if you like to not dance, like, you can really make it however you want to make it. So I think you can tie that into art licensing as well. Like I said, like, I try to kind of mesh the two together as much as I can, if I can. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but if the opportunity calls for it, then for sure I'm going to pitch my art stuff to the partnership as well. So basically what I'm trying to say is create a portfolio of work where people can see and visualize like what is in your mind, especially if you're excited about it, and just like, just keep creating for the sake of creating. And I think the right opportunity will like kind of find you. And the cool thing about it is that people can reuse content that you made for their brand if it's a good fit too. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great thing to think about long term for sure. Just a lot of exciting opportunities, and it's easy to fall, I guess, like into the mindset of, oh, I could never do this. This will never be me. And to that, I say, well, it'll never be you if you keep thinking that way. And if you're not taking actionable steps, and if you're not putting yourself out there, and you can put your work out there without showing your face. Like, if you don't want to show your face, there's ways to keep putting your work out there, even if you're not comfortable with that. But it's just each stepping stone leads to something else. And it's kind of one of those things where I like to think of it as this like big river, right? And we have this goal all the way across the river. I like my really crazy metaphors. And the river's like, there's a pretty strong current in the river, right? And you want to be able to take just a straight you just want a straight path across. You want to be able to, you want a bridge, or you want stepping stones that are all in a row. But the reality is you're taking stones across the river that are not lined up perfectly at all. Like you could be hopping over, you could be going to the left a little bit, you could be going backwards a bit, and eventually you'll get there. But it's kind of like a squiggle, right? It's like a winding squiggle path to cross to get to the other side. There's no perfectly straight path or easy way to go. We just have to take it one step at a time. And that's where people can get so overwhelmed.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that crazy metaphor. That makes sense.
Yes. The raging river. That's actually what I had to tell myself all the time when we were dealing with our retaining wall mess. And so, but it applies to like all areas of life and just in business in general as well.
Yeah.
So it's
and I think a big one
good
too
way to
is
think
like,
of it.
especially, yeah, for sure. I think another thing too to consider is, especially if you're like brand new starting out, or maybe you've been doing it for a while, and like the thing that stops you is like, what would my friends think? What would my mom think? Like if you are in that space, then you can, like, I would do what I did, which is I would create and post, but I didn't post like with my face, I just like posted, and I wasn't trying to like make my name or my face be a part of that. So I think that was like a really good practice for me. And just kind of separate the two. Like, honestly, like if people see you succeeding, they'll jump in. But before that point, people will always like question you. So if that really bothers you, then maybe just like don't put your face in it yet,
Yeah. And learn to shut out some of the naysayers, or at least like sidestep around them a little bit. So you can try to stay on track at the crucial points in your journey, because it's so easy to get derailed. Or to feel discouraged, or the multitude of things that come with just running a business and seasons of life. So the last question that I have is, it can be kind of like rhetorical, kind of open-ended. I'll be curious what your response is, because the last question is, how long has it taken for you to build your brand in the way that we see it now?
Yeah. I'm assuming this is for Chasing Linen, right?
It can be for anything.
Yeah.
It's like a very like open-ended. I don't want to say that it's a trick question, but I'm
sure.
curious what your answer will be.
Yeah. So I feel like even if you don't have, I was going to say if you have a personal brand, but even if you don't have a personal brand, I do think your business brand is kind of a reflection of you, like in the stage that you're at in your life. Like I know for sure I went through, if we're talking about like branding visuals, I went through so many different like color schemes and like looks and business cards and logos and whatever. And it totally like lines up with the timeline of like where I was in that time of my life, in college. And then married and then baby and, whatever. But in terms of like, so that's kind of what I meant by earlier when I was saying, Dianuh Aerin is a brand new baby. There's just so much room for it to grow and mold and change. And I want it to be like that. Like that feels right to me. Like I don't need to like have my color scheme down pat right now, And I think I only have that kind of reassurance and peace about it because I created Chasing Linen, say 7 years ago. And I had to like do that. But with Chasing Linen, I was like, I have to get everything right. I have to like make it like blah, 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 So, and with Chasing Linen, it took me a long time, like years for it to kind of be what it is now. And the crazy thing is when you get your voice, like when you finally find your voice and your look, like people who don't know their voice and their look will copy your voice and your look. You know what I mean? Yep. And so once you kind of like see that, you're like, oh, maybe now I have enough like ground space that I've kind of covered and enough like self-assurance that people who maybe don't have that are finding that in me. So I'll try not to take it personally and just instead think of it as an affirmation, like I did it,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that's kind of a funny answer. I was not expecting it to go this way, but it did. So.
No, I love it so much because you basically touched on what I was thinking you might say is essentially like it's taken every year to build the brand to what it is now, and it's always changing. Like it's always changing. Like as you change as a person, it continues to change. Like we tend to think of things as destinations, as in I've arrived, but no one ever really like formally truly arrives when things are always changing. So no, it was a great answer.
Yeah.
That's perfect. All right, tell everybody where they can find you, your social media handles, your website. Talk about the courses you offer too, because I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in learning from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram is Dianuh Aerin. They're both spelled funky, so I always have to spell it out. But it's Dianuh Dianuh Aerin. It's very confusing. That's my Instagram. And then that's also my website, my new website, dianuhaerin.com. So in my new website that we've been talking about this whole time, basically, I have like the opportunity to collaborate with me if brands want to license my work or hire me. But I also have resources for creatives because I'm hugely passionate about encouraging, especially like closet creatives, to pursue their curiosity or try something new. If they're like, oh, I haven't drawn in forever. I'm like, why not? Like, just go out there and create something because that brings, just joy in your life. So I have a course called Watercolor Portrait Course where I teach people how to paint watercolor portraits. And this is available for like brand new beginners all the way to intermediate. Artists, depending on it doesn't really matter where they come in from skill wise, they'll all come out learning the basic fundamental skills of painting a watercolor portrait. And then I also have more of a bite-sized version if you just want to focus on the portrait part. If you're like, I already know how to paint with watercolor, but I've never painted a person before, then I have a more like a mini workshop. It's called the Portrait Protocol. So that's also available as well. And then I also have a YouTube channel where I mostly talk about kind of ending the starving artist narrative. Because honestly, I feel like creatives, there's just infinite opportunities out there for creatives and artists to make money. And a lot of people don't talk about that. So I kind of talk about that a little bit more, like the practical side of running an art business, especially as a work from home mom, in my YouTube channel, which is also Dianuh Aerin. And then my art business is Chasing Linen, chasinglinen.com, and then Chasing Linen on Instagram as well.
Perfect. Yay. Thank you so much. I think everything that we have talked about is going to be so helpful to people as they dive into their own journeys of pursuing brands and working with brands. So if you guys are listening and you love the episode, please make sure that you take a screenshot of it, share it to Instagram stories, tag Dianuh and Biz Birthday Bash so that we know you're listening. Feel free to also leave a rating and review on iTunes. That helps other people find the podcast and know that it's a good one to listen to, basically. And for any other questions that you have, you can go to bizbirthdaybash.com/Q&Cake to submit your questions there. And the chances that we will hopefully answer it on a future Q&Cake episode. So that is it for today. Dianuh, thank you again. We have absolutely loved having you.
Thank you. This was so fun.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.